Hi everyone, it's Nini. This was already a busier week than I thought it would be. I have like 3 other videos to edit. I'm leaving on vacation next week, so I'm trying to get a whole bunch of stuff done before that. I also have my normal job. So I wasn't planning to make a video on the new filings that were released yesterday in the 7M versus Without a Crystal Ball lawsuit. But now Katie is on her social media saying how the court stated she was in fact a journalist, and the court stated that she is most likely going to win this lawsuit, and I have thoughts on that because this woman needs to take several seats. I want to start this video by showing some clips of why Katie is being sued. These clips are from March of 2022, and a huge shout out to Llama Girl. I think most people in this community know Llama Girl, but I could not make my videos without her. The majority of the clips I use are from Llama Girl, so she is so vital to me as a creator. In all of my Katie Joy videos, I do have a link where you can buy Llama Girl a coffee. I have bought her several over the past year, but if you want to give her a thanks, it will be linked in the description box. And if you want to skip these clips from last year and just get to the new stuff, I will leave a timestamp. Otherwise, let's take a trip down memory lane and remember why Katie Joy is being sued.
And he's people's spiritual guide, and if Robert wants his dick rubbed, what are you gonna do?
Apparently B-Dash is conspiracies. Miranda doesn't get to be by herself, doesn't drive anymore. He was being watched, monitored the whole time. They would not let him out of his sight. They wouldn't let him answer questions. His managers took over everything. He couldn't answer basic questions. They were basically like eyes on him. Hannah Shin is managing him, who happens to be Robert's wife. This is human trafficking. I'm shocked that he wasn't arrested. This is horrible.
I just want to note on this one, Katie is reading from a public document, a lawsuit that was filed, I believe in 2009 against Robert Shin. So she is reading from a public record, but it does not state in that lawsuit that it was human trafficking. Robert Shin was never convicted of human trafficking.
But it sounds like what's happening here is illegal. And the information I'm receiving is making me feel like human trafficking is happening, and that concerns me.
What about all the green cards and the green card marriages? And then using those marriages, forcing people into these marriages, and then using that over their heads to intimidate them so they don't turn you into the police. What about your daughter's green card marriage? What about the forced marriages? Using people who are vulnerable, who are immigrants, and then using that over their head? No. Chloe needed a green card. Do Chloe and Daniel need to be reported to immigration for falsifying their marriage records? You know, it's also a crime to orchestrate these types of marriages, Robert. I truly don't feel like the people that were forced into these situations should be penalized. Like, if I'm being completely honest, I don't think the person that got the green card or even the person that was forced to marry them should be held responsible. I feel like the person that's forcing it should be the one that's held responsible. Someone sent me a message and said that I need to be sensitive to James because James is a victim and I don't have a right to defend his son. And I say, fuck that. I have Jaden's mom, who I talk to all the time, telling me that Jaden misses his dad, that James is a deadbeat dad, that James gave up everything to go and join another cult. I'm not going to excuse a man from abandoning a child just because he's a victim of a cult. And while James is driving around in a Tesla, I think he's getting $500 a month in child support. You're making all that money and James can drive a Tesla and your child's getting $500 a month. You're stealing from Jaden. If you can afford a Tesla, which is like a $90,000 car, right? And Jaden gets $500 a month from you, Jaden deserves better than that. It doesn't matter if the Tesla was gifted to him. If the Tesla was gifted to him, it came from that money. You're missing the point. If it was gifted to him by the church, it doesn't matter. If it was gifted to him, a gift is still taxable. You have a car, James. Why aren't you going to see your son? You can drive to see your son, but you don't. You're missing out on Jaden's basketball games. You're missing out on all of his, like, everything he does at school, all of his events, all of his recitals. You promised Angie that you weren't going to let Jaden down, and that's what you've done. And you're following a man who abandoned his kids. The money that you paid for your Tesla should have gone to your son. While you're gallivanting around and drinking your shitty ass coffee and making your stupid videos, You are so lucky that Angela is a smart ass woman and a good mother. And that you are so lucky that Jaden has a stepfather that cares about him. Jaden's stepfather has stepped into his life in a way that you never would. And if you're Miranda, heart to heart, woman to woman, if he did it to Angela, he's gonna do it to you. You're 9 years difference in age. He's 30, what? James went after you for a reason, Miranda, and it wasn't because you were pretty. It's because no woman his age would put up with his shit. These men are victims, but they sought this group out for a reason. They wanted money. So you have B-Dash, who's a victim, but he's also a father who abandoned his son. Like, if Angela was being smart, she would, like, literally sue for child support right now, which would open up all of the books, Robert. Wouldn't that be, like, the worst thing if, like, a child support case brought the whole cult down? Could you imagine? If she sued for child support, they would audit all of his finances and they would see exactly how you're paying bills. You're stealing from children. Miranda has zero chemistry with B-Dash. Miranda has more chemistry with Slavic. The real couple, if I'm being honest, should be Slavic and Miranda. Those two actually look like they like each other. Why would it matter if she was with Slavic or James? The point is, she's with a man that she's not in love with, and James and Miranda's marriage was more than likely forced, because that's what he does. Miranda is never allowed to be alone, ever. She is monitored constantly. She has never spoken to her family without James there. All of the communication is initiated by James. James is her minder. I would never put myself in a situation again where I'm again following a man who is being abusive, who has a history of sexual harassment, but Robert is not telling them everything and they're not allowed to see everything. So the social media posts that are being put up, they don't even know really what they're responding to, I guess, is the way that the former member said, because Robert wouldn't allow them to. They're supposed to spend like all of their time and energy doing like efforts that are super godly and like fruitful, and being on social media and like wasting your time watching TV is not fruitful, and so they don't get to do that. It's not uncommon for cults to control like the information that you take in and your access to information as well. So another aspect that we talked about was, why is B-Dash always with Miranda? So they basically said that in this group, when a member is kind of like either on sort of the edge or there's something going on around them where they fear that they could actually leave, they will put extra precautions in place to make sure that literally nothing happens for that person to leave. So for instance, one person said that they went to have lunch with someone that was from the group after they left, and they wanted to see them because they missed them. And they were monitored the whole time. They were not allowed to be alone with the person. Someone from the church in the leadership, they alleged, was sitting there with them. And like, if they asked certain questions, the people from the church wouldn't allow them to answer those questions. So it's really highly controlled. So I said, well, is Miranda going to ever be able to have a conversation alone with her parents without B-Dash? And they said no. They said they probably trust James to keep her in line. And so he's probably been tasked as like a mentor in a way to her, where he's controlling everything that she does and making sure that she stays on message and doesn't like deviate from that mission. And they literally feel like they have this mission for God where they like have to save the world. The way that they described it was like one wrong word, like Robert, they said, plants in their head that if they say one wrong word, they can like kill someone with their words or send them into eternal damnation. They also said that he makes you believe that like everyone outside of the cult is like, or the alleged cult is evil and the devil. So they spend their lives like super terrified, they said, of just like constantly doing the wrong thing. They also said it's like a military inside where like they're worked super hard. They don't get to eat a lot. They also don't get to drink a lot, and their bathroom time is monitored. So like if they go to church, they can't go to the bathroom while they're in church. If they like if they're gaining weight, their mentor might start restricting their food, they said. If they are, it's so horrible. Like they're only allowed to sleep like 5 hours a night, they said, or that's what their allegation was. And it's like 7 days a day, 7 days of working day, Friday or Sunday is all day at church. So it's like you're working straight 6 days a week and then you go to church. And then it's like all of your free time when you're not working is with church activities. You're only allowed to hang out with other church people. And they also said that even though it looks like they're all friends, Robert plays favorites, they said. So if somebody's not doing well or if they're getting a lot of heat, so say like Miranda right now is getting all this negative press, he's maybe going to stop favoring her and he'll start trying to elevate somebody else. Another thing, okay, so I got a lot of shit for this a couple weeks ago when I talked about Slavic's fundraiser, but I flat out asked them about the fundraiser, and they said, there's absolutely no way that you can guarantee that Robert's hands aren't on that money. They said that they've done fundraisers in the past for him and he's taken money from the fundraisers. That was their allegation. So they said that if the group is putting out fundraisers, to not donate, because you cannot guarantee that Robert won't be taking that money, and they don't have access to any of their bank accounts. So when you're donating to them, you're basically giving Robert money. I will make you rich, and if you don't stay with me, you will be cursed. I might hurt your family. I might not. Robert is a dangerous man, because on top of the sexual commingling of sleeping with the women at church and having 4 wives, and sleeping with other women at church while he's married and having affairs with other women and young women at that. He's messing with people's financial lives. He's controlling who they can be friends with. He's telling them who to cut out and cut in and who they can even speak to. He's telling them that they're anointed by God, and so no one will understand them more than him. He keeps no records of donations to the church. There's no oversight. He controls everything. He is the CEO of the church. He's the CEO of the management company. He is the CEO of every company that these people are involved in. No one is above Robert. Nobody is putting Robert in check. And Robert isn't telling these dancers the money that's being made. Robert already lifted $4.7 million from Lydia. Lightning doesn't strike twice by accident. And his real estate companies are a front. Robert's realtors don't sell that many properties. Shin Realty has absolutely no listings pending. They haven't sold a house since 2019. I would say he's not dealing with the Malibu listings that you're seeing in these pictures. And Robert wanted to become a famous, wealthy, prosperity pastor. He wanted to be like Kenneth Copeland and all the other evangelical Pentecostal pastors that were having people spend money hand over fist while they purchased $7 million homes. That was the life that Robert envisioned, but he didn't have the acumen to be an effective pastor. So he came to LA. He left his wife, and he left his 2 kids in Canada. That's a great pastor, a man of character that abandons their wife and 2 children to go to LA to become famous. Stand-up guy, I tell you. Stand-up guy. So he comes here and he leaves Chloe with her older brother and her mom, who apparently struggles raising the 2 kids. And Chloe has a unstable childhood with no relationship with her father. Meanwhile, Robert comes here and he meets Esther and somehow becomes a citizen, even though he doesn't practice medicine. He found Tight-Eyes, whose brother had just passed away and who grew up in a very unstable, like he's gone through a lot of economic hardships. And these were just like guys that were just looking for a way out of their situations. Men that are already at risk of dangerous confrontations with police. I mean, is it more dangerous for any other population than an African-American man and woman when it comes to police? There's already so much stacked against the population that he's targeting, and he is exploiting them in a way that is so despicable. And then he's using them in a way that actually pisses me off, because he's playing into stereotypes of Black men by effectively using them to recruit women so that they end up looking like pimps. And it's disgusting to me, because this is Robert Shin, a Korean man, doing this, exploiting Black men, and then he's turning anyone that is concerned for them into racists when he's actually being the racist. How is it a serious accusation to say that he's turning them into recruiters? That's true. So he's exploiting an already vulnerable population that's at risk of such unheard of racism and violence. It's disgusting.
You know, the one thing that is really going to impact this as a whole is the money. And I learned today that Robert goes by Israel. So Israel, who drives a Bentley, an SUV Bentley, by the way, he is obsessed with money.
Tell everyone how you bought your Bentley, Robert. Show everyone where you got the money for your Bentley. Oh, wait. We know where it came from. She didn't lose and didn't show up at court. Who are you? April. Okay, Hannah.
Could you imagine, like, ripping off somebody and driving a Bentley with the money that you stole, and then, like, forcing people to work for you and controlling their Instagrams and not letting them, like, have any personal, like, freedom, and then getting mad at someone for f***ing a guy before she got married and drinking a glass of wine? That's so funny. How many times has Israel been married, and who is he having sex with? Your dad was accused of ripping off $4 million from poor Lydia Chung, and you're mad at me because I boned a couple guys before I got married, and it was fun. And a couple girls. I'm just over here stealing people's money, souls, and twisting and destroying their salvations and their spirits. But Katie had sex before marriage. My dad literally is ripping people off and holding them captive and controlling their every move. But Katie was a slut before she got married. Cheers.
So 7M and the Derricks filed a lawsuit against Katie Joy. There was a hearing last fall, and one of the motions that came up was that Katie might have a temporary injunction put on her where she could no longer talk about 7M, because even after being sued, she was making posts about them a ton. A lot of them, she was putting the knife emoji. Like, wouldn't that be considered a threat or something? But she didn't post about them for a while, so I had posted in Reddit and asked if Katie had said anything about 7M since December 15th, because I think, was that when the lawyers were going to meet? I forget, but I was wondering if the judge did enforce that motion to shut up, as I put it. 12 hours later, Katie Joy posts, update. Since I haven't updated in a minute about 7M dancers, I want to update, blah, 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 blah. These are my opinions, and I don't have a gag order. Katie, tell us you look at Reddit daily without telling us you look at Reddit daily. So the judge ruled on a ton of motions yesterday. One of them that I want to read is that she slapped a protective order on Katie because Katie was requesting very personal information about the people involved in this lawsuit. Like, she was asking for some of their medical records. What is the point of that? That is so creepy. And if Katie would get her hands on private information, she would absolutely post it on her social media or talk about it in a video. So I was so happy to see that the judge did grant the protective order. So some of the documents Katie can't even see. They are for lawyers' eyes only. And I absolutely loved this paragraph, so I'm going to go over it. It says, although the suggested terms of plaintiff's proposed protective order are clearly overbroad, their concerns over disclosing confidential information wholesale to defendants have some merit. Based upon defendants' prior history of posting litigation material involving plaintiffs in other legal matters, it is reasonable for plaintiffs to fear that should they turn over sensitive information in discovery, defendants will post the same on their social media pages. The judge totally looked at your Instagram, Katie Joy. Accordingly, the court will enter a narrower protective order by separate order, which will permit plaintiffs to designate certain discovery disclosures as limited to defendant's counsel's eyes only, and cover other disclosures with a prohibition on disclosure to parties outside the litigation. Last night, Katie posted this about Miranda and James Derrick and how they went to the Grammys. She says, "You're at the Grammys. How did I damage your career? Oh, wait, I didn't. So I'm being sued by these two via Robert Shin. They are posting sponsored ads and going to the Grammys. So how did I harm their career again? Oh, wait, I didn't. I never lied, never contacted the LA Clippers, never directly spoke to sponsors." But Katie, what is this that you shared last spring? Is this you talking to Spanx about how they shouldn't sponsor 7M? I just saw this in Ernell's video too, so I'm going to pop it in here. Katie also contacted Toyota. She tagged them in this post and said, brands need to know who they are involved with, and it's why it's super important for people to speak out. Brands do not want any connection to abuse or the appearance of mind control or human trafficking. Dear Toyota, you are supporting a cult. Back to this, she says she reported on court records and real-life accounts of the pastor you both follow. Yet despite all of the reports, you both continue to follow a man that has had dozens of people accuse him of terrible things. But I'm the reason your career's faltered, even though y'all are at the Grammys. Flexing like this doesn't help your case at all. Looks like you are thriving. Yeah, Miranda and B-Dash are still following Shin and are part of his group, still hanging with a man with a long list of women with very troubling claims against him. She deleted this within like an hour. I don't know if her lawyer told her to or not. But then also Balls caught when people were asking about this lawsuit. What this person said is kind of funny because Katie likes to claim these people are all public figures. This person said she hadn't heard of them before Katie's post. But then Katie says, professional dancers. Story was everywhere last year. I broke the story about the pastor. So your claim that other outlets were reporting on Robert before you even were, you just ruined that claim. They're going to show this in court as proof that you were the first one to talk about Robert Shin.
I'm just so stupid.
And then what she posted tonight. A judge in Minnesota in my county declared that I am plausibly a journalistic outlet which enjoys qualified privilege against defamation claims. The same judge also ruled that the plaintiffs Robert Shin, Miranda Derrick, and James Derrick are all public figures. The court also stated that in order for them to win, they have to prove that I used actual malice in my reporting. Plaintiffs have a steep mountain to climb while bearing a heavy burden to prove their defamation claims against defendants. And while the record submitted to the court at the present juncture does not categorically show that plaintiffs do not have any likelihood of prevailing on the merits, the court does not consider their claims to have a substantial likelihood of being proven. Basically, the judge stated that because I'm a journalist and because they are public figures, they will have a very difficult time proving that I used actual malice to defame them. Additionally, the judge noted that they do not believe that 7M and Robert Shin will be able to prove their claims against me. Thus, the judge believes that if they go forward, I will win the lawsuit. While a lot of commentators and people believe they know the lawsuits better than me, I can assure you that yesterday's order was a huge win for my company. This also serves as notice to anyone that tries to sue me in the future that a judge has found that I am a journalist that enjoys a qualified privilege against defamation claims.
I actually am a reporter, so you can fuck off. So a lot of people ask me questions about all these lawsuits I've been involved in. And listen, it's such a standard part of working in the blogging and media world. Unfortunately, I would think of it as sort of an occupational hazard.
Name one other reporter or journalist who's been sued 5 times for defamation.
I have been targeted frequently by some people that I think are just like up to really not so good things. And so sometimes those people don't like me reporting on them. But one thing that we've been trying to prove to the court in all of these, because there's been a series of them, is that I'm a journalist and I should qualify what's called journalistic privilege in the state of Minnesota. And yesterday a judge actually said that I was. So they said defendants are plausibly a journalistic outlet which enjoys a qualified privilege against defamation claims. Basically meaning like I'm doing a job and I have a privilege to do my job. And you can't just sue me because I've done my job. Also, the judge said this: plaintiffs have a steep mountain to climb while bearing a heavy burden to prove their defamation claims against the defendants. And while the record submitted to the court will present at the present juncture does not categorically show the plaintiffs do not have any likelihood of prevailing on the merits, the court does not consider the claims to have substantial likelihood of being proven. So the court doesn't believe that Robert Shin has a case against me, nor would he win
in any way, shape, or form.
I think that's common views towards defamation cases because that's what you hear about them all the time, that they are very, very hard to prove. They said that in the Johnny Depp and Amber Heard case too. I think that's all the court is referring to, is that defamation cases are hard to prove. And honestly, Katie might get away with the defamation just because it is so hard to prove. I don't think she can get away with the torturous interference though, because she has said herself how she contacted sponsors. And I found another case that happened in Minnesota. A Minnesota blogger was sued for defamation and was found guilty. This man claimed that another man was not fit for his position because of alleged involvement with a high-profile fraudulent mortgage. He was then sued for damages. And this is interesting because the jury found that what he said was actually true, but they found that he was liable for tortiously interfering with this person's employment contract, and they ordered him to pay $60,000. So I included this because I wanted to show that Minnesota has found people guilty for torturous interference before. So it is possible. I want to go back to Katie claiming that the judge stated she was a journalist. When you search the document, journalist is only mentioned twice, and in both times it's referred to as journalistic. You know how Katie likes to spin things though and create her own narrative. So it's mentioned in this paragraph where it says defendants are plausibly a journalistic outlet. And then it's mentioned in this paragraph where it says defendants likely can also avail of a qualified privilege against defamation claims based upon their journalistic endeavors. Since Katie seems to struggle with English, let's look at the definition of plausibly. It says in a way that seems reasonable or probable. What is the meaning of the word plausibly? Seemingly fair, reasonable, or valuable, but often not so. Superficially pleasing or persuasive, appearing worthy of belief. So to me, it sounds like the judge is just saying, yeah, I guess you could call yourself a journalist.
I actually am a reporter, so you can fuck off. Anyone that takes the lawsuit that 7M seriously needs psychological help.
So apparently the judge in this case needs psychological help because I want to remind Katie that she filed a motion to dismiss the case, and last August the judge denied that because she found merit that there was potentially defamation. I want to go over that a little bit. At the bottom it says, in their complaint, plaintiffs set out in great detail the statements with dates, web links, and either quotes from defendants or apparently summaries of posts contained in a table stretching from page 4 to 12. So 8 pages of crap that Katie said. Plaintiffs appear to quote verbatim defendants making public statements on social media accusing plaintiffs of engaging in human trafficking, exercising its gatekeeper function. The court finds that at least those statements convey a meaning which is reasonably defamatory. Accordingly, because plaintiffs have properly alleged facts that, if proven at trial, would entitle them to relief, and with the parties apparently in agreement that the claim of defamation is dispositive, is that how you pronounce that, to the other courts in the amended complaint, defendants' motion to dismiss must be denied.
Lawsuits are not going to end me. Lawsuits don't end me. Lawsuits don't end anyone.
Sounds like the trial might be pushed back to 2024. So, well, yes, Walter. We'll see about that, Katie. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.
I actually am a reporter, so you can fuck off.
Fuck off, Lizzie. I hope you, fuck off, Lizzie.